Alright guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to teach you how to make pasta. Okay, so we're going to make a very simple egg dough recipe. So what you're going to need is 2.5 cups of flour, 2 large eggs, a bench scraper, something to stir with, a fork or something, a pasta cutter, and a pasta roller and pasta cutter. I also have some water that is on right now so I can show you how to blanch the pasta once we're done. So the way we're going to start is we're going to take our 2.5 cups of flour, we're going to put it right here on our board, okay? And you want it to kind of be mounded up, okay? Like a little hill, okay? And then we're going to take our finger, we're just going to make it like a volcano, okay? So we're making a little well in this to hold our eggs, okay? So push it out so it's a little well. Then you're going to crack your eggs right into the center of that well, okay? Okay, what we're going to do now is we're actually going to stir this inside the well, okay? While I'm stirring it, I'm going to go ahead and pop those yolks. I'm going to stir it, and I'm going to bring a little bit of that flour into this as I stir, okay? Every time I go around, I'm going to bring a little bit more in. And the eggs might try to run out, but that's okay. Alright, so stir in that flour as you're going, so bring in a little bit more flour as you're going. Those eggs will start to tighten up a little bit with the more flour that you bring in. So again, they might try to run everywhere, but the more flour you bring into them, the more they'll stiffen up. One thing, once I get to this point, I'm actually going to add my salt to this and then continue stirring. Okay, you can see it's starting to kind of come together. That's what we're looking for. Keep stirring it together. Okay, once you get to this point, this is where it's going to get messy, okay? You're going to have to use your hands, all right? So go ahead. We're going to take our flour, we're going to continue mixing a little bit with our hands, just incorporating that flour into that egg mixture, okay? We may not use all the flour, but flour is your friend whenever we're making dough or making pasta. So keep mixing it, stirring in the flour as you go. What we're looking for is it's going to be a semi-sticky dough, kind of like whenever we made bread. So it's going to be a little bit sticky, but it shouldn't stick to the roller or stick to your hands once we get it where it needs to be. Okay? Once I get it to about this point, so I can handle it, it's kind of sticking on itself, it's sticking together. I want to remove it from all this inner stuff. We don't want to work all these little bits and pieces back into it. So we don't want to work all this stuff back into it. Okay, so we're actually going to take this and get rid of it. Okay, so this is your trash pile over here. If there's any bits or pieces in there, just scrape it away. You don't need to scrape all your flour, just the stuff with the little bits and pieces in it. Okay, now we have some fresh flour that we're going to start with, and all we're going to do is keep kind of folding a little bit of flour into this, okay, until we get it to the consistency that we want. If it gets stuck to your hands, if you have flour stuck to your hands, just take a little flour and wash your hands with it, okay? That'll soak up all the moisture and take it right off of your hands, okay? You don't want any of this stuff that's stuck on your hands to make it into your pasta either. You want that to be nice and smooth and not have big clumps of dough inside of it, okay? So this is like I said, a very simple egg dough recipe for noodles. And you can make any kind of noodle out of this. We could use it for lasagna, we can cut it for fettuccine, we can even do like an angel hair with it. So keep working it. You don't want to overwork this pasta because it will get kind of chewy. Remember we talked about how gluten's made? So I'm just working it enough to get the flour mixed into it. You want a nice soft dough, okay? Keep flour on your hands to keep it from sticking to your hands. And again, little pieces will come off of here. Get rid of those. You don't want those to work into your dough. So once you get about right here, this is what we're looking for. It's not sticking to my hands. It's stuck together to itself. So that's what we're looking for. So from here, what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure that it's all together. I'm just kind of folding the socks on this and making sure it's all blended together really well. Okay? And again, it's still a little sticky, but not so sticky that it's sticking to my hands. We're gonna make a little dough ball. We're gonna take our ball, we're gonna smooth it out, okay? And all I'm doing is rolling it around in a circle and making it round, okay? Once we get it nice and round, you can set it in your flour. The flour's not gonna hurt it. You can even put flour on it, okay? So roll it around in the flour, get it all floured on the outside. What I like to do from here is I like to smash it down, okay? And it's all right if it's round. It's not a big deal. And then we're gonna just take this and cut it in half, okay? So from here, I'm gonna fold it and I'm gonna make it a long rectangle, okay? So try to make it pretty even so that we can run it through the pasta machine, okay? Nice long rectangle, again, using the flour as you need it, which will be a lot. You're gonna need quite a bit of flour to do this, okay? So I've got a pretty good rectangle here, and the reason we do this is if we tried to run that big thick circle through the pasta machine, it's going to get all gummed up and get stuck inside that pasta machine. Okay, so I have, a rectangle, an oblong rectangle here. I'm gonna go ahead and use my pasta machine, get it floured up where it's going, okay? We're gonna go ahead and get all this garbage flour out of here so it doesn't interfere with our new pasta. Put some new flour down at the bottom to receive that pasta. And again, remember, flour is your friend when you're doing this, okay? The pasta machine, all you do is turn and help guide it through, okay? Guide it through, grab it on the bottom side, and guide it through. We're starting at a 0 and we're gonna work it all the way to a 5. Every time I bring it out, I'm gonna add more flour, okay? We don't need a ton of flour, so just add a little bit of flour and then dust that extra flour off, okay? Now we're gonna turn it to a 1. We're gonna run it through again. If I tried to just start with a 5 and run it through on a 5, it would, again, it would smash it, it would get all stuck inside there, and get hung up. It wouldn't work very well. So this one, it still has some flour on it. I'm not gonna dust it with flour again. I'm just gonna run it right through. So we're on a 2. This should go pretty quick. Now we're on a 3. And again, let it pull itself through. You don't need 2 people doing this. Now we're on a 4. And on to a 5. If it rips or tears, that's okay. We're using this for like fettuccine. We're gonna cut it like a fettuccine. All right, now that we got it through, if we were gonna use this for, let's say we're gonna use this for lasagna, we could just go ahead and cut this down. I'd cut off my tour part here. I would go ahead and trim up the edges to where they all look relatively the same. And it's a nice straight noodle. Okay? And then our lasagna noodle would look something like that. Okay? And again, remember, flour is your friend. Flour it up. You don't want it sticking to your hands. You don't want it sticking to the pasta machine. Flour it up. Dust any extra off that you won't need. And all this flour is going to come off whenever we blanch this pasta. Okay? So since we're using fettuccine, since we're making fettuccine, we're going to run it through this thicker side over here. Okay, take some flour, get that floured up. Go ahead and set it in there. And we're just going to go ahead and cut our noodles. So again, you can let it pull itself in. The noodles that come out of the bottom, you can see it's just cuts them for you. And if you wanted the noodles shorter, you could cut that down first, if you wanted to. We're gonna take our flour. We're gonna dust it liberally. We're gonna dust it heavily in this flour. Okay, and then we're ready to blanch it. that. We got plenty of flour all over it. We can pile it up in little balls. It's not going to stick together. It'll store like this for maybe 20-30 minutes before it starts, the moisture starts coming out and it starts sticking together. So you got to be relatively quick at this. So put it onto a container that you're going to transport it with. You're going to need your boiling water. You're going to need a spider to get it out, and you're going to need your pasta. Alright, so as you can see over here, I got my water boiling. I am going to go ahead and salt this, okay? And we're going to use quite a bit of salt because we want this water to taste like the sea, okay? So once we get it salted, we're going to take our noodles and we're going to gently place them around. I don't want to just drop them in there because they'll end up sticking together. So make sure that they're separating as they're going in. Okay, and don't overcrowd your pot. If you put too much in there, it's going to stick together very badly. Okay? Get your noodles in there, make sure they're separated. Once you get them in there, don't just walk away. Make sure you give them a stir so that they're not all stuck together, okay? Give them a stir. This process isn't going to take too long. Okay, these are fresh noodles. They're going to cook relatively fast, and we're going to cook these again. Okay, so this is just a blanch we're putting on them. So we're par cooking them. What that means is we're partially cooking these noodles. Okay, we're not cooking them all the way through because we are going to cook them again. The only way we wouldn't have to par cook these noodles is if we were cooking them all the way through and serving them right after this. Okay, if we were wanting to hold them for longer and not par cook them, we could dry them out. We could hang them up and actually dry out each noodle individually. But it's kind of a process to do that. The easiest way, I think, is to just go ahead and par cook them. Then we can put them on a sheet tray and save them for a later date, for tomorrow or the next day. They don't last too terribly long after you par cook them, so you want to use them relatively quickly. So. So, our noodles have been cooking for about 3 minutes. We're going to check them to see if they're done. How do we check? Pick them up and you actually physically taste one, okay? So check to make sure that it's holding together, that it's not breaking super easily. Taste it to make sure it still has a little bit of al dente. Feel to it, and what al dente means, it literally means to the tooth. So it should have a little bounce back to it. It shouldn't be super soft. So these are done. These are perfect al dente. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get them out of here. Okay. So I use my spider and grab all the noodles that I can, put them back onto my sheet tray. Okay. Because noodles are full of starch, they want to stick together. Okay. They want to stick to each other, stick to whatever you put it in there. One thing we don't want to do is rinse our pasta, okay? Never want to rinse pasta because there's starch on that pasta, and that starch helps your sauce stick to it. Like I said, it wants to stick to other things. We want our sauce to stick to it. So to hold it, so we can put it in the cooler, we're just going to go ahead and hit it with a little oil, okay? And then toss it around to make sure it all gets coated in that oil. That oil will help maintain the pasta and make sure that it's not going to stick to itself. Okay? If I was doing a lot of pasta, I would have a bigger sheet tray. You don't want to really pile them up. You want to spread them out as much as you can so that they cool efficiently. And then these are going to go straight into the walk-in, and we're going to cool them off.